Hi there, this is Dr. Samurai, a professor in Japan specializing in international social pathology. The topic of my minute lecture today is Mr. Pol Pot. Pol Pot was the 27th Cambodian Prime Minister and also the General Secretary of Cambodian Communist Party. I would like to analyze his personality so that you who might not have a good satisfaction in understanding what he really was could get a little bit better understanding and satisfaction for him. His family was originally from China side and Khmer side, and those two mixture. And his father was a wealthy local landlord who during harvest season used many local people for his work, and his mother was very well-known pious Buddhist in that area. And Pol Pot was eighth of 9 siblings. Out of that 9, 3 died in their early infancy. In those days, Cambodia was a monarch, but in reality it was under control by French government. Pol Pot's male cousin was into that monarchy family, king's family, doing some kind of business inside the monarchy. And at the age of 6, he was adopted informally by his female cousin, and he and his older brother were together adopted by her at the age of his 6. For about 18 months, he lived at a Buddhist monastery as a trainee monk. There he mastered Buddhism and Khmer. At the age of 8, he moved to his brother's family, and there he went to a Catholic elementary school. He studied there with the sons and daughters of French bureaucrats and Catholic Vietnamese, and he pretty much mastered French and learned about Christianity. However, he was not that great academically, and he graduated 2 years later than the other students at the age of 14. He failed to enter good schools, so he went to a job training school as a carpenter. There, it was not lowest level school, but not a school he used to go to with elite children. And at the age of 21, he received a scholarship and flew over to Paris. And there he, for the first time, entered Khmer Communist Party group. Okay, since around this time, he started to have his Khmer identity with certain pride and becoming more exclusive to other races. And at the same time, he was into Stalin's ethnic minority policy and organizational control theory. He came to like the ideas of Stalin. He stayed in Paris for 3 years, and then he came back to be a history teacher, while he also belonged to Democratic Party in Cambodia. In 1953, there was anti-French movement in Indochina, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. All those countries are against French control. Pol Pot stayed on in Phnom Penh and became more deeply involved into Phnom Penh branch of Khmer People's Revolutionary Party. From here, I would like to get into personality analysis of Pol Pot. And in short, I suspect there was a strong schizophrenic tendency, paranoid schizophrenic tendency in Pol Pot. The reason I use the term tendency is I do not like to deny his criminal liability. As is well known, his first wife developed schizophrenia as well. Around the age of 55, she had a strong delusion that Vietnamese people are coming after her to kill her. And it became worse and worse. So when Pol Pot was 50 years old, they divorced. And listen to this. When he looked around villages in his official vehicle, Mercedes-Benz, because he devoted so hard to make his country back to a primitive society without any civilization. Much of rice produced there was exported to China to get weapons exchange for it, and what he saw from inside their bands was hunger and lack of nutrition and pathological fatigue and many deaths of his people. He saw that atrocity directly in his eyes, but instead of regretting his policy having been wrong, he blamed the economic failure for those who betrayed and spies within Cambodia and Angkor. And his suspicion was becoming stronger and stronger. And based on this strong suspicion, he started to his purge within the Communist Party and mass murder of Cambodian people. So it is like he put the country back to a primitive society, and because of that, so many people died and became sick, and he saw that terrible situation directly in his eyes, but he could not logically understand it was due to his putting his country back to primitive, but rather he put it on the betrayer and spies within. He didn't blame himself, but blame others who betrayed and spied. And that suspicion became bigger and bigger. That led to large-scale purge within the Communist Party and mass murdering his own people who had no responsibility for what happened. And here's my idea. When we talk about schizophrenia, the first thing I pay attention to is whether there was any contact between inside his mind and what is really happening, the reality, the contact between reality and his thinking. And when we saw his pictures, especially paying attention to his eyes, although it is external judgment, I could not deny his eyes showed very thin contact with reality, looking the other way as if something is happening in front of his camera. And as I have said, although it was frankly his failure, the failure of his own policy, which anybody could understand, he could not logically understand the cause and effect relationship of the actual cruel scenes he was facing from the car. And his paranoid schizophrenia put it on the betrayers and spies. He, I do not believe, could think logically and rationally, and he could not understand what was really happening in front of him was because of his political decision. So, because of this illogical thinking and high unreasonable suspicion and high possibility of losing contact with reality, I could see the symptom of paranoid schizophrenia in Pol Pot. And it is usually considered that factor for schizophrenia is inherited by 2/3 and due to environment by 1/3. So schizophrenia has high inheritance possibility, and very few people other than the experts know this fact that this area called Cambodia have way higher ratio of schizophrenic people than other areas, especially after Pol Pot administration. So this Cambodia area also has something to do with the development of schizophrenia. And his first wife developed paranoid schizophrenia, and it became more severe after 55. And listen to this. Having said all that, at this moment, it is not clearly known what really causes schizophrenia. Sometimes it is because of going up to higher schools, or becoming independent of the family, or getting married, or getting employed. All these changes, turning points in one's life, could be the timing of causing schizophrenia. Of course, it means those turning points involves high stress and pressures psychologically on that person. And looking back at his own life, his family being a big family, and seeing that 3 of 9 children died young, I suspect the attachment with the mother was not that tightly established for Pol Pot. And then, already at the age of 6, he had to move out and away from his family, and his life kept changing by every a few years. So this matches the theory of turning points in life causes schizophrenia, especially based on the shallow mother and son attachment, and his pathological obsession with the destroying civilization could be part of symptoms of schizophrenia too, because schizophrenia get along with the obsession. Nowadays, the whole world is becoming so small as you can fly around in 35 hours. So we must have established certain political mechanisms which put these dangerous elements off of politics. So many innocent people become victims of these abnormal people who have pathological obsessions with power and authorities. I think it's about time to think about this topic globally, especially now, seeing all those confrontations and nationalisms rising all over the world again. Let's think about how to do it together. Okay, this is all for today, and please have a wonderful time. Up until next time.